Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for Personalizing Financial Support for Your Workforce with AI. My name is Rose Gebkin. I'm a marketing manager for BrightPlan, and I'll be moderating the chat today. I will be joined by several of my colleagues at BrightPlan who will be presenting today's content: Dr. Melody Robinson Wright, Elizabeth Klopson, and Magda Adeleke. Before we jump into today's topic, I would like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You've joined the presentation listening using your computer's speaker system by default. If you would prefer to join over the telephone, just select Switch to Phone Audio using the up caret on the audio button at the bottom of your screen, and the dial-in information will be displayed. You can also choose Hide Non-Video Participants on your video option for an improved viewing experience. You will have the opportunity to submit your questions live to today's presenters by typing your questions into the Q&A section on the control panel at the bottom of your screen. You may send us your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address as many as possible during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Today's webinar is being recorded, and you will receive a follow-up email within the next week with a link to the recording and any relevant information. And now a little about BrightPlan. BrightPlan is a global leader in total financial wellness. We provide a comprehensive global solution that addresses all aspects of employees' financial health at every stage of life and empowers HR teams to enhance the employee experience and better attract, retain, and engage talent. The unique combination of our digital platform and expert financial planners enables employers to deploy financial wellness solutions at scale while delivering personalization for their employees. We have a lot of great content to cover today, and I'm really excited to hear from our panelists. For today's agenda, we're going to start with understanding financial experiences and employee needs. Our presenters will help us learn why financial education impacts each of your employees differently and why a one-size-fits-all approach fails to deliver the support employees need. Next, we'll look at how AI powers personalized financial wellness. And together, we will see how AI can provide scalable, tailored financial support that meets your employees where they are. And finally, we will conclude today's presentation with actionable strategies for HR leaders. In this section, you will gain practical steps to integrate AI-driven financial wellness into your benefits program to improve engagement and business outcomes. Again, you will have the opportunity to ask your questions throughout today's event, so please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Live attendees will also receive a SHRM recertification code that will be included in the follow-up email. And now, without further ado, I would like to hand it over to my wonderful colleague, Dr. Wright, to get us started today.
Thank you so much, Rose, and welcome everyone to today's conversation. My name is Dr. Melody Wright, and I'm thrilled that you are joining us. I feel that what we are going to discuss today is going to honestly reshape how we think about supporting employees with financial well-being. Now, before I jump into the conversation, I do want to kind of kick things off by asking everyone in the audience a question. And you don't have to put your response in the chat unless you want to, but the question is, when was the last time you or someone on your team felt stressed about money? I want you to sit with that a moment and think about your answer. Now, some of you might be thinking, Dr. Wright, I don't need a moment. It was just before I joined the webinar. And trust me, I believe you, because money is involved in almost everything we do. It's this critical part of our daily lives and how we're able to go about achieving what we call financial well-being. And because this is a conversation about financial wellness, let's briefly talk about what financial well-being actually is. So financial well-being is defined as this ability to meet your financial obligations, to be able to pay your bills, to feel secure about the future and what's coming down the line, and to have the freedom to make financial choices and use your money for the things you want, to have options. But financial stress is one of the biggest obstacles that we face when it comes to achieving financial well being. I mean, let's keep it real. Stress surrounding money shows up in so many different ways. Maybe for some people, it's getting that unexpected bill in the mail. For others, it's dealing with that constant rising cost of living. Eggs, anyone? Or just the thought of paying for medical care, trying to resolve a medical concern. Take a moment to imagine all the ways financial stress is showing up in your life. Now imagine those feelings of financial stress quietly being carried by your workforce, impacting focus, engagement, and even retention. In fact, it's happening as we speak, and it's costing organizations over 7 working hours a week out of a 40-hour work week, which equals $183 billion annually in lost productivity and engagement for US businesses. Now, as HR leaders, you know benefits are an important part of an employee experience. And we talk a lot about supporting employees with physical health. And after the pandemic, there's been this big push for mental health. But financial well-being, that's an area that many organizations they tend to overlook. And yet it is deeply connected to every aspect of an employee's life. Think about it. When someone is worried about paying rent or they're just struggling to save money, that worry doesn't stay at home watching Netflix while that employee goes to work. It walks through your office doors, it joins your Zoom calls, it's on your production line, and it shows up in your employees' productivity. So financial stress is not only expensive, but it's also a productivity killer. It leads to distraction, disengagement, absenteeism, and even turnover. And I'm going to say that again. Financial stress leads to distraction, disengagement, absenteeism, and turnover. And as HR leaders, those are the problems that you all are trying to solve. But here's the thing. You're trying to solve those issues without all the information. Most HR leaders don't realize the extent of financial struggles happening within their workforce. And that's because employees aren't openly talking about this. There's a lot of shame and judgment around money. They also don't realize that the solutions that they may have in place don't fit the unique needs of their workforce. And for those who do, finding scalable, personalized solutions can feel daunting. It can feel tough, especially when you're trying to balance other priorities and navigate concerns about liability. But let me ask you this. What if technology could help? What if AI could provide the personalized financial support that employees need at scale without already adding to your full plate? Think about how AI has transformed other areas of business like customer service, recruiting, even performance management. Now it's doing the same for financial well-being. Instead of offering one-size-fits-all advice or point solutions that may or may not resonate with your employee base, AI can assess an individual's entire financial situation in real time and provide tailored guidance that meets their unique needs. Take a moment to think about your workforce. Now imagine you have a new hire. They're struggling with student loan and credit card debt, but with using AI, they get a personalized debt repayment strategy. You have an employee that's nearing retirement who's able to use AI and get insights on optimizing their investments and making sure they're on track for retirement. And all of this is happening seamlessly. AI is automating the process. It's ensuring that employees get relevant, timely, and actionable support, while HR leaders are able to stay focused on your organization's broader strategic goals. And that's all great, right? But here's the real impact. Employees who feel financially secure bring their best selves to work. They're going to be more engaged, they're going to be more productive, and they're going to be more likely to stay with your organization. And in this competitive job market, where talent retention and employee well-being are top priorities, what I'm talking about isn't just a nice to have, it's a must. So today, we're going to explore exactly how AI is making this possible and why financial wellness should be at the top of your HR strategy. So I know I've already said a lot. So now I'm going to bring my Bright Plan colleagues, Elizabeth Klopson and Magdala Adelecki, to join me in this conversation. Welcome to you both. So, Elizabeth, we're humans. We assume we are, right? We're humans. And as humans, we are prone to make assumptions. And if we live long enough, we've often found that the assumptions that we make, they can completely miss the mark, correct? In fact, based on Bright Plan's 2024 Wellness Barometer survey, 76% of employees have said that they're not satisfied with their company financial wellness benefits, but 92% of leaders are saying that the benefits that the company offers um, are good for the employees. From your experience working with companies, why is there this enormous disconnect between the financial benefits employees feel they need versus what organizations are providing?
Ooh, good question. I do this to you all the time. So I'm actually going to take us in just a slightly different direction, but I will come back to what you just said. So if you'll allow me, I'm just going to take a quick minute to introduce myself to the audience because I think a little bit of context about my background is going to tell you why I'm here to rep the human resource side of this story or the opportunity or the challenge, however you're feeling about it right now. So Elizabeth Klopson, I am the Director of Customer Success here at Bright Plan, but I have 20 years. I mean, it's actually 19, but we're going to round up because it sounds better. 20 years in the consulting space of helping customers or businesses onboard human capital management solutions, the full thing: HR, benefits, open enrollment, payroll, tax solutions, performance, LMS, recruiting, time and attendance, all that good stuff. And then at some point in my career, I shifted over to a GovCon ERP space for a while, and now I'm here at Bright Plan. But what I will tell you is in that journey that I had a chance to take, or I'm still on, frankly, I've had the opportunity to work with everything from small business to Fortune 50 companies. So many verticals: healthcare, education, higher ed, manufacturing, finance, technology, so much technology. Ultimately, Bright Plan has helped me really level up that education, though, because while I've been here, I've had the chance to interact and engage with global HR teams and their global workforce. And where am I going with all of this? I'm just going to level set that you might think with all of those interactions that I would have seen a lot of nuances or differences. And there are some, but honestly, and this literally delights me, how similar we really all are and how similar employees are around the world and what they're struggling with, what they want. It's delightful to see. I'm going to give you a couple quick, real life examples. Your HR counterpart in India is just as frustrated as you that when they go to close open enrollment, seemingly intelligent humans pop up and say, I didn't know. I need you to open it again. I need an extension. I need to add something. Can you open it again? If that resonates with you, it's intentional. Your HR counterparts in Poland are frustrated that people won't complete their timesheets on time. They have to harass, chase, reward, recognize, and just really be frustrated, right? If that resonates with you, it's intentional. If you are just pick any other vertical that you are not in. And I promise you, your HR colleagues are doing all the things. They're creating newsletters, emails, Slacks, web banners, and people are still saying, I didn't know. So this is a universal truth. The human side of human resources feels the same everywhere. The only thing that I'm really seeing that's different is the regulations and the compliance, right? The non-fun stuff, but the human side, what you're experiencing, what your employees are experiencing, it's pretty universal. I have to remember why I went on that rant. Dr. Mel, what was the question about assumptions? Sorry.
No problem. Why is there such an enormous disconnect between the financial benefits that employees feel they need versus what organizations are providing?
Okay. So don't be mad at me, but
Uh-huh.
I'm going to disagree with you just a little bit.
Okay.
Humans make assumptions, 100%. Probably less than you might think on the HR side of the house, though. And that is because HR people interact with all the humans, and
Mhm.
humans are so different. And you can't, after a couple of years in career, you can't shock an HR person anymore. They will never assume something's not possible because they've seen so many things you would have thought were not possible. Frankly, we learn things we shouldn't learn. We see things we shouldn't see. So I don't think assumption is the thing so much. But what I will tell you is what I observe is human resource, total rewards, benefit teams. They are actively seeking to understand their populations. They're working to build these cultures of care. They're creating
Mhm.
safe spaces for people to give feedback, and they're trying all the right things. What I think is more likely creating the disconnect is a couple things. One, while people will shockingly walk up and tell you their whole health history, they often keep money stuff close to the vest.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think you said something about this, but I'm just going to say it back to all of us. That word game, right? So I say money, you say fear, you say guilt, you say anger, you say joy, opportunity, sadness. And why would you say sadness? It could be that you received some sort of inheritance, that it came at the loss of somebody. Why would you say fear? I think you said this earlier, like you received a disconnect notice. You don't know how to pay the mortgage next month. You say guilt because your child wants to play on the soccer team and you can't afford all the things and the travel and the outfits and all the things. You say anger because it's the top thing you fight with your spouse about. You say joy or opportunity because you just got a promotion, you got a raise, your company's rolling out some new options or match or something like that. You say joy, you say opportunity. And interestingly enough, you can cycle through all of those feelings in the same year. And so when so much emotion is tied to something, people will keep that one thing a little closer to the vest. So I will give HR props because they're actively searching for the information. And they, to a degree, this is going to be a harder place to identify, but there are ways you can spot it. I'll leave it there.
Thank you. What you said was very, very powerful. We do cycle through different emotions when it comes to money. On a daily basis, we might have 4 or 5 different feelings surrounding money. And HR leaders are then navigating, how do I ensure that I'm providing something for my employees when I don't have all the information? And the employee is also having these emotions on their side. So let me ask you this. What are then some of the most common blind spots HR teams have when addressing financial wellness? You mentioned the employee holding their emotions close to the vest when it comes to money, but what other blind spots may pop up for the HR team that they need to be mindful of?
Well, I think one thing that immediately comes to mind is sometimes because we don't want the liability,
Mhm.
you don't, I'm agreeing with you on that, but because we don't want the liability, maybe we don't always push as deep as we would have to identify trends and themes. It's not hard to have a one-on-one with somebody and learn what you need to know. But in order to make a business-based decision, you have to know if it's prevalent. You have to know if there's themes. You have to know if I do this, will it meet all the needs? It's a bigger question. So how can you get, first of all, how can you even identify if there is something worth looking further into? A couple of things I can tell you, you could be on the lookout for as cues. One of them would be, are you seeing people enter into the workforce and opt out, let's say you have a default program that for 401k, they're opted in at 3% or something like that. Are you seeing them enter the workforce and do that opt out more often? Are you seeing people, when there's an opportunity, reduce their contributions? Are you seeing more hardship loans, learning about more hardship loans? Are you hearing of your workforce, more common in the frontline space, but are you hearing of your workforce, you're seeing some high turnover, and when you ask them for their reason, they'll tell you they're getting an extra buck down the street? Like, are you seeing, the young executive who got some sort of promotion? He got his $20,000 bonus and he comes in and says it's only 14, and you say taxes, honey, right? But he, he's confused, but telling you that he doesn't really understand. So he's got opportunity, but doesn't know how to make the most of it. Salespeople living on commission, struggling from time to time and coming forward and asking for a draw, things like that. So those are some ways you could make an accurate, I'm going to backtrack on what I said, an accurate assumption that some of that is at play in your organization. I'm not saying every time those things happen, this is the reason, but some of the time this is happening, this is the reason. Did that address the question?
How about I come off mute? That did address the question. Thank you so much. Are there any, so you gave us a lot of different examples, but are there any groups that we should be mindful of? Any groups or groupings of individuals that HR individuals should look out for?
So this is something that I think is super interesting. And this is why, now I remember why I went on my rant at the very beginning. So in my opportunities, especially here at Bright Plan, to interact with global populations, certainly as well as the US here and domestic, it has become really obvious to us that there are three overarching personas that we would be looking at, that you could be on the lookout for, and they identify in different ways. But let me tell you, if you think about your population, you have probably all the generations that are currently in the workforce. You have some percentage of them in your organization, right? You have baby boomers, you might have Gen X, Gen Z, millennial, you've got that string, if you will. And certainly there are things happening at a generation level that are unique to that generation. So for example, people this is where we don't want to make assumptions, that we might assume that because they're later in career, they're on track to retire, or they're going to, that they have some sort of savings put aside, or they've finally got their finances together and they're going to be more stable. They're going to be less stressed. We might assume that because of their age. That's not what we see here on the Bright Plan side. We might assume that people that are in that middle zone of their life journey, the millennials and the Gen X, that they are rocking the milestones that we all want to hit, right? Have a family if that's what appeals to them. Get married if that's what appeals to them. Have a house. Start all of those initiatives to prepare for hitting that next level. We might assume that's what's happening because of their age. And we probably assume that the younger generation coming in is buried in student loans, or that they, that they have a long runway to go before they could ever retire. And there's some truth to that, but the reality is, especially how how things are just changing generation over generation, is that's not the lens you really want to look at it through. What we've identified is that you want to look at it from the lens of three much easier personas, if you will. There is a group of people that are more than making it, okay? They're not struggling, and they might have eclipsed milestones faster than you might imagine. They have opportunities, and for them, what they need is a lot more help. I would say the advanced help around things like tax shelters and what would be the right investments and what would be the way to maximize it. How do I leave a legacy, right? There's those people. I'm not one of them, but they exist. They're in your organization. Then there's the middle group. Okay. This is the group of people that they're making it. They're probably able to start doing the beginnings of all the things. They have savings. If they have debt, it's purposeful or it's manageable. But they're probably the ones that are mostly impacted by those life events. And they're the ones that it could go either way for them. They could become that first group, or they could become what I'm going to talk about in a second, the third group. And it's really just all about opportunity, education, taking the right actions in some circumstance, right? But those life events that happen, which can include divorce, it can include your parents moving in with you, it can include putting a kid into college, it can include illness, unexpected, it can include so many things. They can either be boons or they can knock the legs right out from underneath you, right? So there's that middle ground. They're okay right now, but they could go one way or the other. And what is the other? That third group, those are the ones that the middle group, we make more assumptions around. We think everybody's there, but the truth is every company has a portion of the population that is actually more, I want to say crisis, but they're struggling, right? Like they're not making ends meet. Their debt is becoming unmanageable. They are missing out on opportunities because they can't get stable, right? And so that middle ground, we don't want them to slip. And the folks that are up here, they need the advanced guidance. But what I think is so cool, and I will stop talking, I promise. But like what I think is so cool is as I've had a chance to interact with people in India, UK, Japan, Australia, South Africa, Thailand, Poland, you name it. These three groups they're universal. You are either more than making it, or not making it, right? These groups are universal. So I don't know. Did I answer your question?
You answered my question and more. Thank you for that in-depth answer. And now, Magdala, I want to get into these different groups or personas that Elizabeth has just talked about because as I mentioned earlier, financial stress, it shows up differently. It doesn't show up the same for everyone. And we know that providing one size fits all solution, it's not going to work because finances is just deeply personal and it's going to be shaped by someone's mindset, their life experience, and their cultural background. So from a behavioral and emotional perspective, what are the key traits that distinguish these personas? Elaborate on what Elizabeth has shared with us and how might HR leaders then recognize them within their own workforce?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Wright and Elizabeth. But before I get into this, I want to say who I am. My name is Magdala Adeleke, and I'm a financial therapist. So this is why Dr. Wright is bringing me in to talk about the behavioral and emotional part. So I bring the emotional and psychological perspective to this conversation, mainly because money is more emotional than it is logical. We'd like to think that if we know all the things that we should be doing practically, then we could all be in that first group that Elizabeth mentioned, right? We could all be thriving and doing really well. However, because money is so personal and it impacts every aspect in our lives, and like we talked about before, like we guard our money decisions and our feelings about it so deeply because of how personal it is, that it is so important, and we need to talk about the emotional aspect and how it is impacting our financial behaviors in order for us to achieve financial wellness. So this is the perspective that I'm bringing here to this conversation. And before we even discuss the behavioral and emotional traits that each of these personas may exhibit, I want to add an important caveat that it is really hard to categorize people into these personas just by what we see on the surface, right? You could be making hundreds of thousands of dollars and still be in the struggling category, mainly because You have personal situations happening. We don't know what people are going through behind closed doors, right? We can't judge by income. We can't judge by physical appearance, right? We could look good on the outside and still be struggling on the inside. And we could not look that great on the outside and be doing really well. So we're not making these assumptions by just what we see on the surface, but how we can identify individuals could be by providing a safe space for them to be open about what's going on with them financially, where it's confidential, because we don't want to share our struggles with our employers mainly, right? Because we don't know if that's going to impact our performance evaluation, our growth potential. So we want to pretend like everything is okay. We don't want to be vulnerable unless we have to. So if we could provide a safe environment for individuals to be honest with what they're dealing with, then we could actually categorize them in the right persona and the right group because they are sharing similar needs and they have similar challenges that we can address. All right. So if we're looking at the different behavioral and emotional traits, let's start with the struggling group. Let's think about what they're dealing with when it comes to their behavioral traits, right? These individuals may be requesting frequent salary advances, right? They may be asking for loans against their 401k, if they even have a 401k, right? Because they are struggling, they're not able to make ends meet, so they really need assistance and they're asking for it sometimes. And maybe they're not participating in some of the wellness programs that are available. They're really stressed out. We may not see it, but they may be very stressed out on the inside about what's going on with their lives, but they may be missing out on work and being late for work. We've heard stories of individuals, especially close to payday, they don't even have enough money to make it to work, right? To even put gas in their car. So some of the struggling employees are really going through a hard time just trying to make ends meet and to show up at work, and that is really impacting their performance. Then if we go to the emotional traits, this is where they're feeling anxious. They're anxious about money, they're anxious about their lives, and they're just stressed out all the time when it comes to their finances. And they have low self-esteem and around financial matters, and they have shame and embarrassment. They don't want to talk about this because they feel like others are judging them, and they don't want to be vulnerable about their financial situation. And that leads to a feeling of hopelessness, right? It's like if you're not sure if you could pay your rent next month, then you feel hopeless, right? Because you're just like, what is, what are my options? How am I gonna get out of this situation? So they're feeling really dejected and trapped in their situation. Now, you as an HR lead, you can identify these individuals based on how they're reaching out. Perhaps they are asking for more resources through their EAP, financial or emotional counseling. And you may see high turnover, especially with low-paying positions, right? Because they're just trying to make a little bit extra to be able to survive. So they may be switching jobs quite often so that they could make some more income. And they're probably not discussing long-term goals, right? Because they just don't see a path for achieving financial wellness. So they're just basically going day by day, just trying to survive today and looking for a higher paying job in the future, just so they could hopefully move to the stable group. Now, our second group is those who are stable, but they're often inconsistent, right? And I think the stable group is a spectrum, right? There could be an individual who just moved away from the struggling group and they're at the beginning of the stability spectrum, and those that are in the middle and towards the end, and then that are almost on the thriving spectrum. So it's really, I think this group is probably the biggest group because they're just like, the range is pretty high for them. So now with these individuals, the behavioral traits that you might see is that they're a little bit inconsistent, right? Maybe when they're doing okay, they are participating in some of the wellness programs, and they are participating in their retirement contribution. However, if they have a couple of emergencies that are popping up around the same time, then they might pause their retirement contribution and they might kind of regress back to more of the struggling persona that we discussed earlier. And they might be hesitant to make major life decisions, mainly because they're not sure, right? Am I going to be okay to buy this house now, or should I wait a little longer and save more? Should I go back to school now, but and take on more debt to am I going to be able to make enough money to justify the cost of going back to school? So they're a little bit hesitant because they're just not quite sure which way they're gonna go. Then when it comes to the emotional traits, right? Sometimes they have financial anxiety when things aren't going so well. Other times when, like things are more stable in their lives, they're feeling pretty good. They're uncertain about the future because they're not sure, like if they're going to be okay or not tomorrow. Although they are reaching out because they have the desire to learn, because they are in a place where they could get more education. They are thinking about investing and saving a little bit more. So they will reach out for more resources because they are capable in that sense. However, as a HR leader, you can recognize these individuals based on their increased interest, right? So they might be seeking financial workshop opportunities and they might have questions about savings and investment options, and they're more engaged when it comes to goal setting, right? So they are talking about, okay, what's next for me in my career at this company because they're feeling good and they're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, right? Whereas the struggling was like, like I just need to make more money. I'm not sure if this is the right place for me. But the stable individual may see a future and they're more engaged in talking about their goals and their work. Now, we all want to move to the third group, right? Our goal is to move you from wherever you are now to eventually be in the thriving group where you're feeling secure and healthy about your financial wellness. So these individuals, they are maxing out their retirement contributions. They're participating in other options, right? So they might be asking you, hey, what else can I be contributing to? I'm already doing the best that I can for the retirement. Are there stock purchase plans? Are there other opportunities for me? And they need more financial planning resources. And the great thing about this group is there could be sharing their knowledge with other employees, right? So then maybe mentoring some of the younger employees and those in the other personas, showing them the steps that they took to get to where they are. So that's really powerful when you have a mentor that is sharing these good resources with you. So they're feeling confident in terms of their emotional traits. They're confident in their financial decisions. They're feeling secure and stable, and they're looking for optimization and growth when it comes to their money. So as an HR leader, you may recognize these individuals based on the level of financial planning tools that they're requesting. So they might be talking about legacy planning. What should they be doing? Maybe talking about long-term care, thinking about education for their children. And they're very proactive with their career development. So these are some ways that you as an HR lead could recognize some of these employees. However, it's not a foolproof method, right? Because some individuals may not reach out to you and you may not understand what's going on if they're not taking action and sharing what's going on with you as an HR lead. I think I had did I have another question, Mel, that I should be covering right now?
I am going to ask you that because I was just going to say you've done a really great job really diving in to the personas, like telling us
Mhm.
more about them, and then giving HR leads the ability to kind of be on the lookout for different things that might pop up within each of these persona groups. And when we think historically about how financial wellness has been delivered, oftentimes, it's been these one-off webinars, some education here and there or point solutions. But now that we know that these personas exist in the workplace, can you tell us a little bit about why one size fits all solutions are going to be ineffective for these employees?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. It's called personal finance for a reason, right? Because finance is personal. So to look at it as a one size fits all, it's not going to be effective. as I mentioned, even within one persona, there's like a range, right? Like you could
Mhm.
fall at the beginning, the middle, or the end. So it is important for us to not just identify the personas, but to provide more personalized and customized guidance to our employees, right? And if we're not speaking to their special circumstance and their realities, then they might not engage, right? And they might not take action. So if I'm struggling, I don't know if I'm going to pay my mortgage next month, and you're talking to me about investment opportunities, estate planning, like I'm not going, I don't care, right? Like I'm not even going to engage. I'm like, this is not about me. But if I'm at the thriving stage and I'm thinking about tax optimization, I'm thinking about stock purchase plan, and there's a webinar about debt and budgeting, like that's not of interest to me. So instead of thinking that, oh, maybe these employees don't care if they're not engaging. Perhaps you've partnered in the past with a financial wellness company and employees didn't take advantage. You're thinking, oh, it wasn't the right fit. But maybe they weren't getting what they needed. We weren't speaking to their needs. They didn't feel like it was a place for them. So it is important for us to understand. Our employees understand where they might fall and giving the space to maybe self-identify, right? Or to put in information about themselves so that it is becoming evident where they fall in these personas so that we could provide them with the actual support that they need to help them achieve their financial wellness goals.
Yeah. And so what it sounds like then is if we don't have personalized, customized guidance, HR leaders can unintentionally overlook the diverse needs of their workforce, right? So there are going to be employees who need help, but they may not feel seen within the benefits that are being provided. And then there's going to be those who are stable or, thriving, they're doing well. And so they might look at what's being provided and just think there isn't anything here for me. So they're not going to engage. So it kind of becomes this double-edged sword where you got to find just the right fit. And for HR teams, this is going to create a real challenge because the question becomes, how do you provide meaningful, personalized support without stretching your team too thin or taking on additional liability? I mean, what would it look like to be able to build a financial wellness program or offer financial wellness benefits that are gonna fit all three of these personas? That's the big question. And I'm going to tell you that this is where AI changes everything. Now, today, we're talking about generative AI, which many of us honestly are already using in our day-to-day lives. Think about ChatGPT or a platform like Canva that allows you to use AI to create images or videos, or even your retail store's customer service chat. To level set, generative AI, it's a type of artificial intelligence. And I like to say it acts as a super assistant because it's able to do so much stuff. It can help you generate new content. It adapts to different contexts and provides real-time personalized recommendations in a way that can even simulate expert coaching. And in the context of financial wellness, it's going to be able to learn from data and users' interaction and deliver personalized financial guidance based on that employee's unique situation, regardless of what persona they might find themselves in. So, yes, AI is going to be a really powerful tool for supporting employees. And in just a moment, we're going to show you exactly how it does that. But first, let's explore how AI is solving key challenges that you, as HR leaders, are facing today. And we're going to start with the first one, which is how do I provide scalable personalization? Now, one of the biggest barriers to effective financial wellness programs is that HR simply doesn't have the bandwidth to tailor to support to each employee. So you can't help them navigate whatever financial challenges they're going through or walk them through how certain aspects of your company benefits impact their finances daily, even though you might really want to. But AI can solve this because AI can meet with every single one of your employees, wherever, whenever, in a judgment free space, reducing your caseload. It provides support based on each employee's needs. It analyzes their financial situation in real time and provides relevant, personalized guidance automatically. And it can point them to other resources within your organization and even give them guidance on using the tools that are already available. Now let's talk about how AI serves as a financial coach. What we know is that employees who are struggling with finances, they're actively seeking financial guidance, right? But what we need to be asking ourselves is, are they seeking it from the correct places? Because many are turning to social media, blogs, podcasts, and even family and friends. And what happens is they end up getting really bad advice that makes their financial situation even worse. So then the question becomes, where should they turn? With AI, you can support your employees by creating a safe space for them to ask questions and get on-demand access to real-time, personalized financial guidance. And it can be trained to provide fiduciary level responses. And because employees are able to get that immediate support, whether it's 2 a.m. in the middle of the night or while they're eating lunch in your break room, it increases employee confidence, engagement, and morale while reducing financial stress, because they know they have something there that they can trust to help them navigate their unique financial situation. The third way that AI supports your HR team is through smart recommendations. And this is going to be a crucial component of the financial wellness support that AI is going to be able to provide. When we think about increasing engagement with financial wellness benefits, the quickest way, or just benefits in general, the quickest way for employees to go from just receiving education to actually taking action is to be able to see themselves and understand the value that comes from the solution or recommendation that's being provided. They need to understand, how am I going to apply it to my life? And because AI is able to take into consideration an employee's entire financial picture, it can provide not only smart recommendations, but it can also provide it with actionable guidance. So now, instead of HR needing to manually create these programs or look for ways to boost engagement, AI can proactively deliver personalized financial insights, action steps, and education that help employees to make better decisions, boost their financial confidence, and lead them to feeling more comfortable with engaging with other benefits that your organization is providing. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to walk through the different personas that Elizabeth and Magdala have talked with us about earlier, and we're going to show how AI is able to support employees that may fall into these different persona groups. And we're going to start with the struggling persona. Now, this is Jake. He's been out of a job for a while. He used up all his emergency fund, and he's just really trying his best to get back on his feet. He knows that he has to get out of debt. So Jake opens up his Bright Plan app and he asks the financial wellness coach a question. And this question is, should I get a roommate to help offset costs so that I can pay down debt, or should I stop contributing to my retirement and savings instead? So using AI, the coach is able to provide an immediate response in the context of Jake's overall financial picture. And we know that's kind of hard to see, so we're going to walk you through a breakdown of the answer here. So in the response, the coach first affirms Jake's question about getting a roommate to offset costs, and it shares how this would benefit Jake. It also shows awareness of Jake's financial situation, pulling forward numbers like his debt and how much he has in his savings. It then provides guidance in the form of actionable steps that Jake can walk through at a pace that feels comfortable for him. Even in this response, the coach is asking Jake a follow-up question because it wants to provide more support. This isn't just a one-time answer. This is a conversation that Jake can have with his coach. And the coach is also linking Jake to tailored education to help him boost his financial literacy. And now with this information, Jake can feel more confident about his decision to get a roommate while also rebuilding his savings and paying down debt. Now that was the struggling persona. Let's look to see how the coach is able to support, or AI is able to support someone who may be in that more stable space. So this person, this employee, his name is Jermaine. He's a mid-career employee. He's doing pretty okay. One of the things that's really important to him is owning a home because he's experienced some housing instability when he was younger. But the economic uncertainty that he keeps hearing about in the news is creating this nagging feeling that he just hasn't saved enough. So he opens up his Bright Plan app and he asks the coach a question. And this question is, I'm doing well, but I still don't feel financially secure. Should I save more money in my emergency fund or hold off on buying a home? Now let's walk through the response that the coach then gives to Jermaine. First, the coach is going to show some awareness because it's going to call out different things about Jermaine. It's going to show that it is aware of Jermaine's question. It's even going to personalize the response by telling Jermaine how much he should boost his emergency fund to. So, and by providing that emergency fund amount, this may help Jermaine feel, more financially secure. Then what the coach does is it provides steps that Jermaine can use as a roadmap to boosting his emergency fund. Again, steps that he can take at his own pace. And it even highlights the benefits of Jermaine boosting this emergency fund. The coach then again wants to continue the conversation. So it asks a follow-up question and even highlights other areas within the Bright Plan platform that Jermaine can explore to see how his actions could impact his goals. And once again, it also provides tailored education recommendation to bolster Jermaine's financial literacy. So now with this response, this support from the financial wellness coach, Jermaine has a target savings goal to work towards that is in line with his risk tolerance. And he has guidance around a potential way to save for his home and boost his emergency fund at the same time. Now let's take a look at our thriving persona. This is Michaela. She's partnered with 2 children. Michaela has learned about the power of investing during a financial wellness seminar at her first job. Now her and her partner have a healthy investment portfolio, and they have been able to save for their kids' education and upcoming dream business venture. But Michaela is not wanting to go through what she went through last year at tax time. So she's really interested in learning more about tax mitigation strategies that will help keep more of her income for herself. So she asked the coach this question: what are the most overlooked tax strategies that someone in my financial situation can use to legally reduce liabilities, maximize deductions, and keep more of my income working for me? Let's walk through the response that the financial wellness AI coach provides Michaela. So first, the financial wellness coach shows awareness of Michaela's financial situation while also providing guidance on optimizing retirement strategies like exploring a backdoor Roth IRA. It then highlights deductions that can come from contributing to 529 plans that she has for her children. It also provides guidance around managing tax liability while maintaining a growth-oriented investment approach. It offers considerations around charitable contributions and asks a follow-up question that, again, continues the conversation so that it can provide more support. And it provides tailored education around tax saving and planning. So now, by using the financial wellness AI coach, Michaela has been given several options to explore that will help her keep more of her income. So from this, as you can see, by using AI, employees are able to navigate financial concerns that are top of mind. And they don't just get a one-size-fits-all response. They are seeing themselves in the response. They get personalized guidance with actionable steps and the ability to continue the conversation with follow-up questions and get access to recommended education to help boost their financial literacy and their resilience. Now, to me, this is a game changer on so many levels with how AI is supporting employees. Earlier, I asked the question, when was the last time that you were stressed about money? What if during that moment of stress, you could get support like what we just showed you? Now, Magdala, I want to throw it to you. I want to ask you another question. With this type of personalized support powered by AI, what type of changes would we expect to see in employees who have access to something like this overall?
Yes. Good question. I think this AI-powered financial wellness program does offer a transformative approach to employee support, right? I think it offers this personalized guidance that addresses their unique situation based on their persona. So I think you mentioned that it does provide the scalable, real-time, and tailored financial coaching experience, right? And through that, they can get that empathy where they feel heard, they feel understood, and they'll have access to information to help them with financial literacy, financial competency, as well as reducing their financial stress. And ultimately, what we're looking for and they're looking for is to improve their overall employee well-being. I think what's powerful about this opportunity is that it facilitates getting access to help, but in a very
Yeah.
safe and encouraging environment, right? Like it's very low pressure. You can access it whenever you want on demand, right? So they could just like dip their toe in the water when they're ready and then get the support that they need. I feel like it's almost like they can get help in a safe environment before maybe they're ready to speak to someone. As we mentioned, people feel vulnerable and they safeguard their finances. They don't want to talk about it, but this opportunity opens um, the support level to them where they can access it at their convenience in a way that they don't have to feel the shame because there's no one that they're talking to. So they could get the help that they need until maybe they're at a point where they say, hey, I want to more personalize. I want to talk to a human. I know I've heard of people who say, hey, let me lose weight before I go to the gym, right? Let me lose weight before I get that trainer. Let me clean my house before the housekeeper comes. So I think this gives them that opportunity to get help on demand safely and confidentially when they need it. And later on, they could be in a place where they could get more a one-on-one help. So I think this is why this is so powerful because they are getting the level of support that they need, but in a very safe environment.
I 100% agree. And I honestly feel like this type of access, when it's provided to employees, it's honestly giving them the ability for those who may not already be in that thriving persona to create that path to thriving, right? And then for those who they're already doing really well, what they have are the tools and resources to help them maintain where they are or continue growing. So thank you so much for that, Magdala. Um, with that, I want to pose another question to the audience. I want you to think about this. Again, you don't have to put this in the chat unless you want to, but is your current approach to financial wellness actually helping your employees, or is it just checking a box? When you think about financial wellness benefits, the financial wellness benefits that you're offering, think about whether you're equipping your workforce with the right tools at the right time in a way that truly makes a difference. Because here's the reality. The way employees are experiencing financial stress, it's evolving. And if your financial wellness strategy isn't evolving with it, you could be unintentionally leaving your employees without the support that they need. So then where do we go from here? How do we start shifting from being reactive to a proactive AI-driven strategy that meets employees where they are? So Elizabeth, I want to bring you back on because I want you to walk us through this. What steps would you suggest HR leaders take to integrate AI into their overall financial wellness strategy?
Well, I am actually going to take my Bright Plan hat off for a minute and put my consulting hat on. They will forgive me. Here's one thing I'll just tell you, and it really doesn't matter. It's not just about financial wellness or any vendor, really. AI is artificial intelligence. It is intelligent, and it is here. It is, it is going to, if it is not yet, it will be in all of your vendors, your solutions, and so forth. So it really isn't a matter of if you tap into AI, it is just about when you intersect with it. But the things that I would be thinking of if I was a HR person assessing any vendor or assessing anything I wanted to bring into my organization, I would be assessing the security. So, your employees are interacting with this tool. And actually, I want to back up and just say, I'm going to underscore something that Magdala said. The AI component is an augment to the human component, right? We don't ever want to lose the human component of helping people. So think of this as a powerful feature, and you are going to see some percentage of your population latch onto it quickly because they're like me and they do all their things at 8 o'clock at night on the couch. Or, by the way, I am somebody who cleans my house before the housekeepers come. I can't have them seeing my real life. And so I'm one of those people, right? Ultimately, there's going to be a high percentage of your population that this is the way that they're willing to get started, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't keep the human component in this experience, right? So check into that, like wherever the AI component is, what is the ongoing human component? When you think about the security component, you also want to be understanding that they're going to be interacting with this tool. Where is that data going? Does it go out to the universal cloud? You wouldn't want that with financial conversations, right? When you think about should financial wellness even live in your space, probably one of the first things you're going to want to do is identify the need, right? And how might you do that? So we talked a little bit about some ways you could figure it out on the backside, and that could be looking at benefits that you offer that employees have to pay into. Retirement, HSA, those two come immediately to mind. Options, things like that. Do you have a high percentage participating? Do you see people moving up and down, stopping, taking hardship loans? Do they come in and try to have you help them figure out how to file exempt with the new, much harder W-4 form, right? Like, do they, are you seeing people look at your retention numbers and look at the churn? When you collect your information on why people are leaving, what percentage of it can you glean some insights into what might be happening in their life? There's so much information you have available to you that will help you understand your population. But I promise you, all three of those personas are in your organization right now. Keep building the slide, people. I don't remember what else I'm supposed to talk about here. Okay, personalized experience at scale. I think I talked about that. So augmented to the human experience. Supportive financial culture. I love this. And I think I'm going to go back to something that Magdala said, which is, at the end of the day, we really want to give people the tools to let them keep the personal experience, because you in HR, we're probably the first team that gets to run lean in an organization. You are never going to be able to meet the masses at the level they would need. And frankly, you don't want to, because you don't want that liability and that responsibility. But you do care. We see this over and over again. You're in this role because you care. So giving them a way to have the support that they need, is going to, at scale, that doesn't hit liability for you. That is the reason to look into this. Oh, I love this one. Just so y'all know, I am a member of the data team here at Brightplan. I call myself a data wrangler. Okay, I'm not a data master. I can do an 8-second ride though. I don't get thrown off too often. So I love to measure impact. And this is something I will challenge you. Whatever you're looking at in your organization, I promise you that any vendor can come in front of you and say, are people using it and what are they using? That's just usage. And yes, you do want to know people are engaging with it, they're enrolling, they're engaging, you do want to know those things, but that's not the insight that moves the needle in a company. And AI is a huge part of how we can collect trends and themes to then help you make business decisions, and also measure how we're helping to move the needle for people going from not stable to stable, stable to opportunity, right? So, this data is where we can start to identify the decisions that you could be making in your company, give you back that data rolled up. You should not know that Joe down in the cubicle over there is, struggling. You should not know that Sally just bought a home. You don't want to know those things. But rolled up at a theme level around the globe, data has the power to unite your company in a way, this data in particular has the power to unite your company in a way that you otherwise wouldn't have access to. So I love data, talk about data all day.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thank you, Magdala, for joining me in today's conversation and adding your expertise. I know that I've learned a lot, and I know those who are listening have also learned a lot from you. We've explored a lot today, right? Why financial wellness isn't one size fits all, how AI is personalizing financial support at scale, and how it can remove the burden from HR while empowering employees to take control of their financial future. I hope that you all listening today enjoyed this as much as I did and will continue thinking about how to take your financial benefits to the next level and support all the unique individuals within your organization. What we're going to do now is we're going to open up the floor to some Q&A.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wright, and thank you to all of our presenters. We've had some great questions come in. The first one, it looks like Elizabeth is probably going to be our best person to answer this. It's from a mid-sized team that's growing, and they're asking, our team does not have things broken down by persona yet. Where can we look in order to find data that would help us get started to understand where our employees are at?
Yeah, that's a good question. So am I on mute? No. Okay. So I would tell you have a lot of data at your disposal, most likely. And I'll kind of rehash a couple of ideas. One is, looking at the benefits that you offer that people have to contribute from their paycheck to grow over time, retirement, right? So are people coming into the organization and opting out? And what segment is doing that? What population is opting out? Do you see it happening sometimes on your older generation too, not just the younger generation? If people are contributing to HSA, are they changing their contributions throughout the year to those benefits, right? Because they maybe need that money back in their pocket. As you look at people that are leaving and you collect the stories on why people are leaving, and you learn that they're headed down the street just for that extra dollar, right? Those are some ways you can, and then you want to start mapping that at the generation level too, because what you're going to find is age is not the key indicator of whether somebody is struggling or thriving. Age is not the key indicator. And you can be advanced in your career and struggling, and you can be young and on a path to early retirement. That's a cool thing about this current generation that we're moving towards. But that's why you need to look at those data points and then map it in so you can prove to yourself you have the whole gamut of those personas within your organization.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That's very helpful. For this next question, I'm going to combine a couple of questions. We've had a couple of people ask about this, and looking at getting a complete picture of the person's financial life, and then around AI. So for Magdala, I'd like to pitch this one to you. How does AI adapt to life changes for employees, such as marriage, childbirth, or economic downturns, to keep the financial wellness support that employees are receiving relevant to their particular situation?
Yeah. I think what's great about our AI system is that all the information is already in there, right? For all life events and all stages of your life. So as your life changes and new situations are happening in your life, then it will adapt to your current lifestyle. So if you are getting married and you start asking questions about marriage, and then it knows that, okay, so this is something that's happening to you, then it will start giving you the advice and support based on that. Then it will start pulling in information from our marriage life event pages. So we have a lot of resources already included. So then you'll start tailoring the information that it suggests to you and helping you to create a goal for saving for a wedding, what to expect when you get married, what are the next steps. So we have life event pages on getting a divorce, caring for aging loved ones. So it is very adaptable and it starts to pull the information based on your current situation. So it's there, it's available to you, and as your needs change, then we'll be with you every step of the way.
That makes sense, Magdala. And I think one of the amazing things about that is that it's really dependent on the employee. So as they input their information about the changes, and again, like Elizabeth, like you said, it's really keeping all of that private from the HR side, but it's allowing like real-time changes to support the employees. For our next question, this is going to go to Elizabeth. You did talk about this a little bit earlier. Um, this is from one of our global companies attending. Are these strategies of using AI to aid in personalization mainly for US-based companies, or does this apply to global companies as well? I wondered if you could just talk a little more about that.
Yeah, it definitely applies to global. And frankly, isn't that awesome? Because at the end of the day, as HR people, we want to give our entire population access to the same opportunities, right? And we don't want to have that disparity, if you will. So it is absolutely something that can support all the globe. What I will tell you is we're watching because, AI is on its own journey right now. Not just with Bright Plan, but just in the world in general. And so countries are either formulating their own, statements around how they, look to see vendors regulate around AI, or they are at a minimum posting commentary that they're aware it's here. They haven't yet built their regulations, but every country is on its journey too, to be aware of, utilizing, and maybe even putting its compliance and regulation around AI. Ultimately, you need a vendor who's monitoring what's happening at the country level and adapting to stay in compliance. But AI should be available to your global population. So, and that is one of the beautiful things about a parity of benefits.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really helpful. And I think it's great to be able to have a benefit that you can share across your whole organization, no matter where they're located. For our next question here, I'm going to go back to Magdala. We have a question that involves the emotional, psychological side. So, how do cultural and generational differences impact how our employees are going to experience financial wellness benefits?
Oh, yes, definitely. This is my jam. Um, Absolutely, right? Our background, cultural, family, generational, all of these differences does absolutely shape how we all experience financial wellness. They influence our beliefs, our attitudes, and behaviors around money. And it shapes our relationship with money as well. So all of the things that we experience growing up, our society, our home, things that we were taught and things that we caught in our environment all influence the way that we view money. So it is important when we're creating solutions for financial wellness that we're being sensitive to people's background, right? Culturally speaking, right? Like the values and beliefs that we have around money depends on, where we grew up, even like a birth order, all of those things impact the way that we relate to money. And when it comes to generations, we heard that, people who grew up during the Great Depression, I mean, their relationship with money was completely changed because of that experience, right? So they raised their kids with that mindset, and their kids are raising their kids that way. So all of these generational factors are impacting the way that they relate to money. Technology right now, right, is changing the game. We're talking about this AI option, and younger kids are, very open to entering their information online, linking their accounts. Whereas we're noticing some of the older employees are like, oh, I'm a little hesitant. I don't want to share all of my financial information on an app. So we're seeing that the differences, and it is important for us to acknowledge it, right? This is why we discussed earlier that we cannot provide a one size fit all solution because people are different. We want to acknowledge their differences and we want to give them options where we're making them comfortable. Yes, it's okay to challenge people to accept a new reality, but we want to be sensitive to their to how they feel about those changes so that they are participating in these solutions. So I definitely think it does impact the way that they view their financial wellness, and we should be considering that when we're talking about financial wellness solutions.
Thank you so much, Magdala. We have just time for a couple more questions here. This one is around risk management. This might be appropriate for you, Elizabeth. What are the risks of misidentifying employees' financial needs, and how can the HR team help to mitigate this risk proactively?
What are the risks? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is, and probably HR people are very aware of this, in most organizations, benefits are the second largest expense to an organization. So if we don't know the needs of the people in our space, we don't know the volume of need by those different personas, makes it really hard to bring on a benefit package that will get utilized to its best degree, to build a benefit package that would make you best in class, to compensate people in a way that moves the needle for the business and retains. It'll make it very difficult for you to potentially retain. And so I'm just going to take you back for a second on retention in general. You can come up with this own formula at your own company, but run an analysis on what your average salary is. And you could do this by kind of categories, managers, individual contributors, however you want to break it down, but run your own formula. What is your average salary that you pay people? Because when you go through a constant turnover, your expense to find your next person, train them, get them back up to speed because you lost the person who was at a good clip, right? All of that is a very high percentage of what you're paying in salary. And so retention, you in HR, you can impact the revenue of your organization and all of their, P&L, if you will, just by retaining your population. So understanding what they need, making sure we're building the right benefit package, that we are an employer of choice, that we are helping them to reduce their stress, is actually money right back in your bank.
This makes so much sense, Elizabeth. Thank you for covering that. And along the lines of that question, with helping employers understand risks and maybe the next steps they could take, this next question has to do with trends. For Magdala, how have employee expectations around financial wellness benefits evolved in recent years, and how should companies respond to some of those changes?
I think employees now have higher expectations from their employers. I think our standards as employees is rising, right? I think maybe in the past, providing basic retirement planning or budgeting tools was sufficient, but now employees are thinking about mental wellness, right? Their overall well-being. So they're requiring more options. And so I think HR leaders will need to consider that, right? So maybe they're looking for more comprehensive support. They have debt. They want to talk about emergency savings, education, when it relates to investments or long-term financial goals. So with that, I think they're requiring more personalization, right? More options, flexibility, and accessibility. So by providing those type of comprehensive services to employees, I think we'll be able to help them better and to retain them, as Elizabeth mentioned, right? If they're getting all these supports and all these benefits and they feel like they're cared for as an individual, and they're, like we're supporting them also through life transitions, as one of the previous questions was how the AI coach could help with those different life events. But if an employer is offering support and services when someone's giving birth, buying a home, then I think that's really powerful and it could help retain the employees. Because yeah, as you mentioned, like the landscape is changing and they are requiring better solutions to their overall wellness.
That makes a lot of sense. And I know that employee retention really helps build a company culture. It looks like we have time now for just two more questions here. Let me pitch this next question back over to Elizabeth. So this has to do with the balance between the digital, the AI, and then the human side. How can AI-driven financial support balance automation with the need for human financial advisors? So maybe you can go back to talking a little bit about how people, I know you touched on this before, but where people are willing to talk to AI and the scalability factor with the human advisors.
Yeah. So I think a couple things. One is I like that the person chose the word balance because we would never want to remove the human side of providing support to people. But Magdala talked about, that we are evolving as a workforce and wanting more. The other thing we all want is fast. We want it now, and we have shorter attention spans. And so, ultimately, if you can't give it to me in 2 minutes at 8 o'clock at night, I'm going to be frustrated with you, right? And so think of this as an opportunity to give the best of both worlds. I liked, Magdala, how you said some people just need to dip the toe in. They need to do it in a safe space. They need to do it while no one's watching. They need to do it when it works for them. And that's the power of AI, especially because AI can be personal. It is secure and it is fast. Because of that, that's a beautiful meet in the middle. And then the balance is continuing that human opportunity to connect with people, because sometimes you just need to talk to somebody, right? And so I think that is the beauty. I wouldn't call it a replacement. It's just a augmentation.
That makes a lot of sense. And for our last question, this is kind of comprehensive and first steps. So what are some first steps that HR leaders should take if they currently don't have any financial wellness initiatives in place? Where can we get started?
Yeah, so I think I chatted a little bit about this, so I'm going to underscore that. Start with the data you already have. And in addition to looking at what you already have, a lot of customers run surveys. Like they will, send out an anonymous survey out to the population to poll your population to figure out what would really move the needle. So you have access to all of this great data already. You just have to dig into it, and splice it up, and you'll figure out what's going on in your organization. If you move towards putting something in place, then you should have more data as a result of that. So you should have an easy way to know what the trends and themes and needs are across your population. You should not know it at a personal person level, but you should be able to take that data and make great business decisions with it. And then separately, you're putting this in place because you want to see people go from here to here to here. So your data should show you how, through actions, engagement, understanding the trends, and that's something you do together, right? It's not just your financial wellness vendor, it's a partnership there to move people onto the best next step for them. But your data should be showing you that all of that is happening.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I appreciate you closing us out today with that final question. Thank you all for your participation in the webinar today. And just some final announcements. Thank you to each of our speakers. We hope that everyone today attending found this webinar valuable, and we'd love to hear your feedback in the survey following this webinar. We have many more upcoming events for you this year, so please keep an eye on the events section of brightplan.com for our next webinar coming up soon. Also, please sure to complete that feedback survey that will help us to plan our future events. If you would like more information on how BrightPlan can support your clients or employees, please contact us at info@brightplan.com or visit us online at brightplan.com. Again, thank you to everyone so much for joining today. Thank you to our presenters for that dynamic conversation, and have a great afternoon, everyone.